The suitcase in the hallway was the first thing that didn't make sense. It wasn't mine. It wasn't hers. It was black, sleek, new, still carrying that faint plasticky smell of untouched zippers. And on its tag, instead of her name or mine, was a man's, Daniel Cross. I froze in the doorway, keys still in my hand, the hum of the car cooling in the driveway behind me. My parents were waiting outside, grinning with the kind of excitement I hadn't seen in years. I had promised them a once-in-a-lifetime gift, a week in Europe with us, all expenses paid. I'd saved for months, sacrificed overtime hours, dinners out, even sleep. Today was supposed to be perfect. But that bag, that name, it pulled the air out of my lungs. Ethan. My wife's voice floated down the stairs, casual, light. Did you get the tickets? Tickets. Plural. My throat tightened. Yeah, I managed, slipping the keys into my pocket, stepping closer to the suitcase. I brushed my fingers over the tag again, as if the name might change if I looked long enough. When she appeared at the top of the stairs, she wore the red scarf I'd bought her last winter. Her hair was curled, her smile bright, but there was something forced in the corners of her mouth. Something tight. She followed my gaze to the suitcase. For the briefest second, her smile cracked. Oh, she said too quickly. That's for a client. I promised I'd bring it with me since they're traveling later this week. A lie, smooth and easy. Almost rehearsed. I nodded, even as my chest tightened. My parents stepped into the hallway just then, laughing about how they nearly forgot their passports. The moment slipped away, swallowed by chatter, hugs, and the shuffle of coats and luggage. But the name on that tag carved itself into my brain. Daniel Cross. The drive to the airport should have been joyful. My parents were wide-eyed, marveling at the idea of Paris, Rome, Vienna. My mother squeezed my hand at every stoplight, whispering how proud she was. My father, quieter, kept looking at me in the rearview mirror with that rare smile of his, the one that meant more than words. Beside me, my wife scrolled her phone endlessly, thumbs moving faster than usual. When I asked who she was messaging, she said, "Just finalizing details for work." But she didn't look at me when she said it. On the plane, she sat beside me, but her body leaned ever so slightly away. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress. Exhaustion. Marriage wasn't always fire and laughter. Sometimes it was quiet, routine distance. That's what I told myself. Still, when her phone lit up during the flight with the name Daniel, my chest hollowed out. She tilted the screen just enough that I couldn't see the message. I turned toward the window, watching the ocean blur beneath us. My reflection in the glass looked foreign. Eyes sharp, mouth tight. A man already unraveling. Europe was a dream for my parents. The Eiffel Tower glowing against a midnight sky. Gondolas cutting through the canals of Venice. Cobblestones echoing under our footsteps in Prague. I photographed their laughter, their awe, their wonder. I wanted to remember their joy, even if I couldn't forget my wife's growing distance. Every night, when we returned to the hotel, she lingered in the lobby to check emails. Every morning, her phone buzzed with a smile she didn't show me. And every time she came back to bed, there was a faint smell on her skin. Not perfume, not soap, but something masculine. My parents didn't notice. Or maybe they chose not to. I noticed everything. It wasn't until Rome that the truth clawed its way out. We had just returned from the Vatican, my mother glowing with reverence, my father unusually talkative. I went down to the lobby to ask about dinner reservations, and there she was, my wife, standing by the revolving doors with her phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was low, urgent, intimate. "I miss you too." "Yes, I'll see you soon." He hasn't figured anything out. I froze behind a column, my pulse hammering so loud I thought she'd hear it. Then she laughed, a soft, private laugh I hadn't heard in months. A laugh that wasn't mine anymore. When she turned, our eyes met across the marble floor. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. She ended the call, walked straight past me and whispered, "Not here. Please. Not here. Not what you think. Not I can explain. Just not here." That night, I couldn't sleep. My parents were in the next room, exhausted and happy, oblivious. She lay beside me, her back turned, her breathing steady but too controlled to be real sleep. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, replaying every smile, every kiss, every promise she'd ever made. All of it collapsing under the weight of one name. Daniel. The final night in Europe, I decided to know for sure. I told my parents I was heading out for a late walk, to take in the city one last time. Instead, I followed her. She had said she was going downstairs for a drink. But I knew. The hotel bar was dim, alive with soft jazz. And there he was. Daniel. Tall, confident, leaning close as she touched his arm like she used to touch mine. Their voices blended with the music, intimate, familiar. I stood in the doorway, the world spinning, my stomach a knot of glass shards. She saw me. Her hand slipped from his arm. Her lips parted, but no words came. Daniel turned, brows furrowing, then straightening into something like pity. I didn't stay. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I simply walked away, my footsteps echoing through the marble halls, each one heavier than the last. The flight home was suffocating. My parents clung to the joy of the trip, thanking me 100 times. I smiled, nodded, told them it was nothing. Beside me, she sat silent, hands folded tight in her lap. Not once did she reach for mine. When we landed, I hugged my parents, promised to visit soon, and watched them disappear into their taxi. Then I turned to her. I gave them Europe, I said quietly, but you gave me Daniel. Her eyes filled, her lips trembled, but I didn't wait for her excuses. I picked up my suitcase, just mine, not hers, and walked away. For the first time in weeks, my lungs filled. The air was sharp, cold, honest. And I breathed,